Streaming. Okay, I think we can jump to live. We are live. I think we are live. Thank you, YouTube, for changing every time and for making better humans always adapt. Okay, I
It
think we
still
can.
says I'm waiting on my.
We are live. Hey, Luis,
Yeah.
how are you?
Hey, everyone.
Yeah, hello everyone in the chat. Thank you for coming for this special Houdini live with Doxia Studio. Doxia Studio is a one guy studio, so it's Luis.
For now, yeah.
Yeah, Luis, can you tell us more about you?
Hi, everyone. I'm Luis. I'm from Portugal. And I start my studio for about a year. It has a different name now. It is Doxia Studio. Before it was Distort Studio, more focused on DJ stuff and video mapping. Now I'm changing to Doxia to do a lot of VFX for commercials and brand activations. I'm going to start by talking about my background for a little. Maybe I can share my screen, Maxim?
Yeah, I think you can share your screen.
How I did before. Yeah, share screen. Okay, can you see my screen?
I can see your screen. That's perfect. Hello guys, hello everybody. A lot of nice person there. Hello everyone.
Okay, just to start, here's my background. I'm a motion designer and multimedia developer. I used to do branding, a lot of video mapping events for music festivals and corporate events. I do a lot of brand activation, interactive installations with processing and Arduino. I do VJ, and now I'm doing a lot of virtual reality and augmented reality apps. Try to combine everything with motion designers and multimedia developer. So I have a huge background on programming, so jumping to Houdini was not that afraid and not that complicated. So this is my past, present, and future work. Just to explain why I changed and jumped to Houdini. On the past, I worked with processing, Cinema 4D, X Particles, and Turbulence FD. Use Real Flow for water simulations. Use World Machine and View for environments and landscapes, and post-processing on After Effects. For render, I use Cinema 4D, the standard, yeah, because I start with that, and Cinema 4D Octane. In the present, right now, I'm using only processing and Houdini FX. And you can see I switch Cinema 4D, Real Flow, World Machine, and View, everything to Houdini. And that's, I think, the most powerful thing in Houdini. And in render, for render, I use Houdini, Octane, and Unity. I'm starting to use Unity for some renders because real-time render is a huge, powerful tool for our render pipeline, because instead of waiting for 3 hours render, you can have a 30-second animation in 30 seconds. So that's pretty cool. And in the future, I'm kind of like in the middle from present to the future. And I will still use processing because I love doing the live things and generative art. Use only Houdini and start using Unity for animations and modeling, because Unity is changing. It's not only for games anymore. You can, and a lot of animation studios are using Unity for their short stories and everything. And on render, I'm going to use Redshift, change from Octane to Redshift, because I'm sorry to say this, but Octane really sucks in Houdini. And it is always crashing. And I hope I don't crash during the live stream, but let's hope not. And I'll use a lot of Unity, the new render pipeline, because it's really good and you can do a lot of effects there inside Unity, and you have real-time render. You don't have to wait for minutes per frame to get a new work. And as you see, I jump a lot from softwares and render pipelines because my computer specs are not like the computer from Maxim. My computer is kind of medium budget. I don't have 1080 graphic cards. I have only the 1070 Ti graphic card for GPU, and I have another one, 980 Ti from the other computer I have on my back. And when I get a huge project and I need to boost my CUDA cores for Octane, I just plug in the graphic card and I use both. For VJ, I can use my workstation, my work computer, so I have this MacBook Pro for VJ because I need to work and move around. So jumping to my work, I do a lot of stuff. I love to combine everything like generative art from processing to 3D. And my jump from the Cinema 4D and processing to Houdini was not that easy. As you may know, Houdini is not that simple to start. And that's why I'm starting doing these tutorials with the motion designers community. And I'm going to show you a little of my short reel. Can you hear this?
Yeah, I can hear.
So this is my work, 1 minute reel with some of my works during the past years, a lot of processing. Augmented reality is the new big thing. Video mapping. So as you may see, I do a lot of different work from VFX to simple to the generative art, like this one. And I'm using these works I've done in processing to do the next tutorials on Houdini. We are using PopNet. Some of you have already seen the last tutorial.
Hey Luis, I have one question. Do you want to answer a question when it comes, or maybe wait then? Because some questions are related to what you show just before.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so short question time, just because it's related to what Luis showed. So there's one quick question. How long did you take to feel comfortable in Houdini?
Oh yeah, after Cinema 4D. Yeah, that's a kind of hard question because I started using and exploring Houdini for last year. I saw every tutorial from Entagma. I even support Entagma on Patreon to get access to other tutorials. And it was kind of hard to start because it's really different software. And I kind of jump between both softwares. A lot of people do that because I was doing particles and then I was, but I could do this on X particles in 5 minutes instead of start to learn. But if you don't force yourself to do that, you won't start using Houdini.
That's my case. I jump.
And for the last year, half a year, I really forced myself to quit Cinema 4D. I don't even have the license anymore. I just quit Cinema 4D and now I forced myself to Houdini, and now I don't see myself getting back to Cinema 4D because, and I'm going to explain that here on live stream, I can do so many things and I have so much freedom on Houdini. I don't feel like I need to go back to Cinema 4D.
Yeah.
Maybe I will for some projects because Cinema 4D has very powerful tools. Formograph and even X particles are really awesome now. But yeah, at the start was not easy and I didn't feel comfortable. But right now I just feel like natural.
Yeah, and I must tell people that you also have a background in generative and processing stuff, so maybe it helped you to
Yeah,
understand even quicker, because most of the people, including me, can't start, with Entagma stuff, because if you don't have background in coding and all that stuff,
yeah,
it can be
and
hard.
I'm explaining that in my tutorials because I want people to understand why I'm doing that and why I'm doing the programming like that, so people can understand the logic and do by themselves instead of just copying what I'm doing. And on the last tutorial into the PopNet, I was explaining a lot of stuff, and I'm going to show on the next one that you can do this exactly the same stuff with different nodes. And that's the key thing on programming, that it's not only one solution for every problem. You can do as you may like. And I'm going to show you
Yeah.
maybe when we start.
Maybe just before you show
I'm
the
going to show you the language from processing, and you'll see that it is almost the same as VEX.
Yeah, and we have another question, really small one. I think it's a technical question. What do you use, with your iMac? Do you use an eGPU, or do you have everything pre-rendered or something for it?
I don't have an iMac. I have a PC, Windows.
Okay,
I have only Mac for VJ because I use Model 8, and
okay,
it only works on Mac. But for my workstation, it's just Windows, i7, 32 RAM, and 2 graphic cards. It's only that.
okay. I'm keeping the other question for after. You can
Yeah, sure.
continue.
So we were talking about jumping from processing to Houdini. I'm going to show you just a quick. Oh, I don't want a new one. So this is processing language, and as you may see on this project, I create my own particle emitter and everything, and this data and the language is almost VEX. You can understand by looking at it. And if you don't understand VEX, you can see this is an int. I explained this on the last tutorial. And I use a lot of this logic on PopNet now. And we are going to understand on the part 2 on the tutorials into the PopNet how I'm using images to control my particles movement. For this, for example, for this one, or maybe let me jump to circle energy flow. For these animations, this is animation still. I use images I create from After Effects like this one. You see, and we will understand how we can use the brightness of each pixel to drive the particles. And with that, you can start learning and understanding the logic between VEX and PopNet, and start to understand how to use simple programming like processing. And VEX, it's really easy to control everything on Houdini. And after that, you can pretty much do everything you want. Because that's the powerful thing on Houdini. Like in processing, I have my class. This is my points. Imagine those are points on the PopNet. And then I had vectors and I had color, floats, and everything. And you can do this with point triangles. And then add functions with Vex programming, and we will do something like this, image controlling the movement from the particles to this complex stuff. Those are images controlling black and white images, controlling the particles. And that's the key thing from my tutorials, and I want to keep that way, that people don't just copy the things I'm doing. I want everyone to understand why am I doing those programmings.
Yeah, so everybody, if you want to follow the Luis tutorial, you will find his tutorials on his YouTube channel, his Patreon, and you also find some content on our YouTube channel. So feel free to check everything because he's a really great teacher.
Thank you. And jumping from things so simple like this, the fourth part, I think, we will start going to doing complex stuff like swarm, swarm from copying the movement from birds and fish to do something like this. I think, can you see? I don't know if it's too much white or black. But like this, the particles are moving like birds and drawing an image. So we will do like a scale, complex stuff. This was done in processing, but we will learn how to do this in Houdini. And you can go even further and use Houdini to use audio reactive stuff. You can see the swarm, and you can do this with PopNet and a little Vex and use sound to control the particles. And yeah, I love doing these tutorials, but doing the tutorials has its downside, and that's why I start my Patreon page. I don't know if you guys already seen it. Oh, and you just post it on the
Yeah, I've already posted it on the chat. So everybody, if you want to, I'm too fast.
Yeah, I start my Patreon page because to do the tutorials, I have to dedicate my time, and that's why I start my Patreon page. I use the Chuchue link to get an extra, and that's it for the tutorials. Yeah, it's going to be a kind of complex stuff on PopNet, but if we go with simple stuff to start, adding Vex programming, we can get something like this. And now I'm jumping a little further from the tutorials and show to the community how I've done and how I've learned to do these organic structures. Let me just find the video we are going to check. Okay. Everyone was asking me how I've learned to do this.
Yeah, I've one question. So this is rendered with Unity in real time, right?
No, this one, it wasn't, because I love to do subsurface scattering.
Okay.
And I did some projects and I put on Patreon.
Okay.
That it's possible to do this real time in Unity, but it's kind of not good enough. Let's say like that. It's not good enough to do this subsurface scattering on
this was
Unity.
rendered with Octane?
Yeah, it was with Octane. I'm going to explain how I did the Octane materials here in Houdini. And you can understand this and use same logic on Cinema 4D if you want to do scattering there, because it's the same render, right? So to start, I just want to show you how I got into this thing, because it was really from another artist. Let me try to remember its name. It's John Nurlander. I think. Okay, I find it. Have you seen this Instagram page? This guy is an excellent artist, and I saw in the beginning of March this work. Don't know if you already saw this. Amazing. So I was watching this and I was thinking, I don't know how he did this, but I was thinking using Pyro simulations to do my growing stuff, my organic plants. So I start digging out and I found the Houdini VDB effect. I'm going to explain how I start and how I come with complex stuff like that. And in Cinema 4D, you have the documents inside the software and you can see everything. On Houdini, you have to go to the documents from Houdini. And you have a lot of things here. And that's how I learned a lot of stuff. They have everything explained, how to use the best way and everything else. So I start digging. So let me just turn off everything. Okay. So for this growing stuff, this last video we just saw, we start with a base mesh, in my case a sphere, and then I create a Pyro simulation, right? With Houdini tools, shelf tools, okay? The below is smoke. And then we got a Pyro dot network. I just changed something here. It's calculated. See now, I don't want that. Okay, I just changed the, how do you pronounce this, buoyancy direction. Normally is to 1 to the smoke go up. I just turn off so everything will stay in the center. And I've cached the simulation so we can see what's going on. Let me just check it's load. Okay. I have low resolution because I'm not using the smoke. I'm just using the velocity from the smoke. So this is our scene, our Pyro simulation, right? As you can see, I got the velocity from the voxels from the simulation here. So as we saw in the document, we need to get that velocity and convert to a VDB. This is the starting point. Now let's go to our growth. Let me turn off. I have these notes because I've posted this project on my Patreon and I explain everything as a tutorial. So people, if you download the project from Patreon, everything is explained why I'm doing this. So we import our base mesh, right? I use attribute random just to random the colors from polygons. I do a blast to keep only the white ones with a simple vex. Like this, if color from red is minus 0.5, is less than 0.5, I'll blast the other things. I clean up, I subdivide, I poly extrude, and subdivide again, and we add something like this. Okay, this is our base mesh to do the growth. Then I convert to VDB from polygons, I smooth it out, and then I'll use a solver. Before going into the solver, remember again, this is how I learned this stuff. They say here on this text, you need to convert you have to have a VDB with the velocity information. And somewhere they say it's the VDB advect. You need to put inside a solver to work because it needs to know what happened before to do the animation. So I import the Pyro simulation, right? That node I showed you with the velocities. I convert to VDB, but getting only the velocity information. So right now I have this VDB with velocity from X, Y, and Z, and we need to merge this into only one VDB with the velocity, with only one velocity. Everything merged. And then we use everything, our VDB from the base mesh and our VDB from the Pyro simulation into a solver. And inside this solver, it was kind of hard to start. So let me just show you what I did at the start. We are going to use a VDB effect. Ignore everything else, please. Let me just clean this up. So at the start, we have our previous frame with our base mesh, our VDB. And I was going to affect this VDB. And then to the velocity, I was using our second input, that is our velocity VDB, right? If I do this, you'll see, and if my computer doesn't crash, everything will move with the velocities. And maybe let me just open Photoshop so I can draw you a quick sketch. So right now, our VDB is advecting with our Pyro simulation, right? Everything is going really slow on my computer right now. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, it's really slow because you've opened Photoshop. It's an
Yeah, because I need to draw, and you know, guys, from my tutorials, I love to draw to explain my the things that I'm doing. Okay.
Yeah, everything is still smooth and I can hear you. So
Okay.
I hope it's the same thing in the chat, but let us know if it's smooth.
Okay. So it's easy to explain this way instead of waiting for my simulation. So I have our base mesh, right? And right now everything is going to be affected and changing everything. But for a growing structure like a plant or something, as you know, a plant starts like this, and then it will add something above, a new branch, and the past structure stays the same, right? So what I want to do is that I have this mesh, and I want to only affect the edge, right? I want to affect like this, and the middle, and this part stays the same. It was kind of hard and difficult to figure this out, so I searched a lot of forums from Odd Forum and Houdini's forum to understand how I could do this with VDB, because with VDB Advect, it's doing the job at changing everything, but I want to change only the edge. So I've learned that you can use VDB analysis. And this, let me just analyze this. Here I wrote it from. Okay. So with this node, as you see, I use a lot of Houdini documents. With this node, you can get a lot a lot of info from the VDB. And those two, the gradient and the curvature, is the things we need. With this one, we can get the edge. And with this one, we can control how much we grow from the edge. And that's what I'm doing here. So let me, oh, it's still running. God damn it. Stop. Okay, let me go back. So what I'm doing is I'm normalizing the VDB. I'm analyzing and getting the gradient. Okay, gradient, scalar to vector. I'm getting the vectors in the gradient, and I'm getting the curvature. I'm merging, so I have everything on the same VDB, and I'm using a volume VOP. In this one, I'm doing a simple math and simple ramps. I'm not going to explain these in details. I'm going to save it for a tutorial in the future, maybe next month or something after we study VDBs. But to explain it really simple, I use curvature to control my gradient. And then I have the velocity from the Pyro sim coming in, using the curvature again to multiply. So I have this, right? This is my base form. Let me just try to paint. So this is gray. Imagine this is a beautiful gradient, okay? So what I'm doing is that when it's white, it has 0 velocity. And when it's on the edge, that is pure black, has the full velocity, okay? So it's like a gradient, and I'm controlling that. So in the middle, that is white, it's not getting any velocity. So the base form will stay just the same and don't change, the thing I was explaining here. So that is the logic with these nodes. I'm just using normalize, multiplies. This math is the same as I did on PopNet, like multiplying by 0 or by 1. I use just a ramp to control everything here. Okay. And by doing this, and then using this volume that we are getting from the volume VOP to do the advect, we get our growing form. I did a cache before this stream, so I can show you the advecting. And that simple math is doing these growing forms, because every frame is calculating again the curvature and the gradient, and it's only advecting the outside, the edge. I know for some it was kind of complicated to follow, but I'm going to save this for a big tutorial after we study VDBs. But it's simple as this. Then I just use the previous base mesh to merge everything, convert VDB to polygon, smooth, use the face to eliminate the duplicates, and here is our final mesh. And this is polygons. If I turn on the wire, maybe it's a high dense. As you can see, it's a polygon now. And I have a Alembic output because I was trying to use this on Unity. And I want you to understand that you can have these polygons, this animation, export as an Alembic and use in your own software like Cinema 4D or Unity or 3D Max. So you can do your simulations here, export as an Alembic, and then using other software.
Yeah,
And
really, really interesting.
yeah, and as you may see, that's the cool thing I like on Houdini. I was using Pyro simulation, like from Turbulence FD from Cinema 4D or X Particles. I think now they have things for turbulence and smoke. And I was using Pyro simulation to control my growing stuff. For example, I'm doing the same logic to do a video mapping show, that I'm using a Pyro simulation to collide with the building, and then my growing plant is growing only outside the windows from the building, for example. And like this, you can control everything, and it's quite nice. Other thing you can do with Pyro simulations is like controlling particles. For example, we have our base mesh. This will be much easier because I start explaining PopNet on my tutorials. So I have a poly extrude, a scatter, right? This you guys understand. Then we have a PopNet. Like on my tutorials, we use all points, emit only on the first frame, and then we use pop effect by volumes. On this pop effect, we are going to get the Pyro simulation again, and now our particles will move with the Pyro simulation. Let me use the cache again. And again, with the same simulation, we are controlling now particles. Will it run? Okay. Now my particles are moving with the Pyro simulation. And I think I have like 80,000 particles. Yeah, 80,000. No. Eight. I can count. 800,000 particles. So like this, you can. That's the thing I love. Again, using Pyro simulation, you can control a growth, and you can control particles.
Yeah, that's really nice, and you have the same principle in X particles, but of course it's a bit more simple. But
This thing is simple. I did this like in 30 minutes. After you understand how you can combine everything, like you have a simulation here, you have another simulation here, and another one here, and everything combines. You can even come from our point cache, convert to VDB. I did a test, so see if it was cool. Let me try to render this stuff just.
yeah, by the way, guys, if you have question, do not hesitate to type everything on the chat, so we can check them and Luis can answer.
Imagine now I convert my particles to VDB, so I get this organic like liquid form. Of course, I forgot to turn off the octane particles. This is the same as the octane tag on the Cinema 4D. I was rendering this volume, this geometry with particles. So right now it should render as water. Yeah. Come on, Octane. Don't crash. What happened? Okay. See, now I have my growth inside the bubble water thing with the particles. So everything is using the same simulation. So it's like the water is moving and the growth will like follow the empty space from the water. So you can create really cool stuff with simple Pyro simulation and two other simulations, and you can create complex stuff like this. We try and get other angle. Yeah, and that's the cool thing. I just want to share with you a cool thing I've learned. Maybe you guys already know this, but there's a short key to jump between nodes that changed my life in Houdini. So, for example, we are working here on this growth form, right? If we press Control 1 here, and then go back to our particles and press Control 2, now we have two views. If I press 1, I jump directly to our nodes. And if I press 2, I go into the particles nodes. And this way, it changed my life because I have, in this project, I have 3 simulations. Okay, so if I press Control 3 on this one, that's my simulations. Okay. If I press 3, I'm going to this node. If I press 2, I'm going to the particles. Now, if I press 1, I go to the growth node. Instead of going always up, looking for the node and dive in, I just can press one key and change between them. That's the cool thing.
Yeah, really time saver.
I saw this on a random tutorial on the internet about Houdini, and I was like, oh my god, this is fantastic. For example, in the render, I'm always changing between object view, like this one, going to the material view, and then going to the output, right?
Yeah,
Like
we have questions now. Do you have finished to show what?
yeah,
Yeah,
this is the basic stuff and the cool things on Houdini. So if you guys have any question,
yeah. Thanks again for showing these really nice tips. I really enjoyed the first part, growing effect with the VDB
yeah,
advect. It's kind of
yeah,
fresh way to see growth
and
systems.
the VDB analysis.
Yeah,
That's
really
my
important.
life to work with VDB. And I think the other guy, the John Nurlander, I think, I think he uses that to control the materials. I'm not sure, but I think that's a way to get these different materials on the VDB.
Yeah. So we have one question. So the question is, what kind of client work are you doing with Houdini?
Right now, I'm doing everything with Houdini. I do a lot of video mapping, so a lot of my projects, it's like 3D animations for buildings. I don't know if you guys know what is video mapping. I'm just assuming you know, but it's animation projected on a building or a structure. And I use Houdini for everything. I don't use any Cinema 4D anymore.
Yeah, so you all your creative part for the video mapping is made on Houdini, right?
Yeah, every animation is done in Houdini.
And for the post process, you use After Effects or
Yeah, I use After Effects. I'm not the best artist for post processing for post production, but I use After Effects to how do you say, to combine every scene into one animation and do the color correction and last effects like small particles or background videos and stuff like that.
that's great. People, if you have other questions, feel free
I
to
don't
ask.
know if you guys want to know how I do the subsurface scattering on Octane.
There's one fun question for you, Luis.
Uh,
It's a tricky one. Have you seen 3D text intros for YouTube channels? There is a whole community based around making them. Do you have any thought? I'm sorry for my accent. Thought on the subject?
Uh, yeah, I don't use a lot of 3D text on my animations.
I think the guy is talking about the all the intro sync intro stuff. And when I started Cinema 4D, I saw a lot of this stuff because when you start Cinema 4D, most of the time you do like text and intros
Yeah,
because they
yeah, I
come
know.
from After Effects. And I think the guy is talking about this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I don't use a lot, but when I start posting my works with this organic stuff, I got a lot of message to do this with those intros, like have a logo with the text on 3D and having my growth coming from that. Yeah, like that. Like the other video that everyone was sharing. Let me try and find that one. Like this video that I got my organic growth ripping the cloth. Some people were asking if I could do this for the 3D text and 3D logos. You could do that, but it's not the type of work I like to do, so I don't have really thought about that.
Yeah, I think the same way. I think every community or creation is it's okay till you have fun, and I think that's a way for many beginners learning how to do animation, how to synchronize music and visual. So yeah, I think it's
Yeah,
okay.
I prefer to do abstract intro animations and then fade in the logo instead of animating the logo, you know.
Yeah, yeah, and most of the time, if we avoid like judging the other stuff, we save time. I see a lot
Yeah,
of artists like, what do you think about this and what about this? Oh, this is nice or this is not nice, and I'm like, the less I think about what is nice or not nice, the better I am because most of the people are starting, with their own stuff. So
yeah. That's the thing. I usually, even if I have an intro to do for a studio or something or for a brand, I always do abstract animations and then place the logo after that. Because for me, I think you can explain and you have more freedom to explain the concept with the animations instead of using the logo to do the stuff.
yeah, that's a great way to create nice logo reveal and stuff. I think it was the latest questions. So guys, it's time to write down a question if you have, and if you don't have, thanks for coming, thanks for watching, and thanks for all the
I hope
love.
you liked the live stream. I hope I didn't complicate too much.
No, I think it was nice because it gives also an overview to all the people that never done Houdini, the
Uh,
logic
and
behind.
I want you guys to understand that I learn a lot of things by looking at other artists. For example, again, with this one, I love these experiments he's doing. And I look a lot of other works and try to figure myself how to do that and come up with other solutions. Then use a lot of Houdini documents to understand how to use the nodes for my work. Because if you come to Houdini and press tab, you have a lot of nodes, right?
Yeah,
And it's really the worst way to start working with Houdini. Instead of jumping to the Houdini, first look to the documents and try to figure out what you need and then come to Houdini. I've learned that because on processing and programming, I do that. I write on a paper or I think really hard how to do the stuff. And after I've done that, I start coding. And
Yeah,
Houdini is like that, right? You need to know what you are going to do before you start. Because if you jump to Houdini and start doing a lot, I want to do this, but I don't know how, so I'm going to press tab, and I want a VDB. So now you have 30 nodes to work with VDB.
that's exactly the same principle that you can find, for example, in Cinema 4D or in Houdini. So every people that stayed in the live, do not hesitate like to use the documentation. Even Cinema 4D has really good documentation. I mean, you can do anything. For example, let's take the volume builder, and you have one question. I think you can like right click and show help, and it will explain.
Yeah. If you
Oh,
press F1 on Zero 4D, you get the documentation inside software, right?
so
Yeah.
instead of sometimes searching for tutorials and stuff, most of the time, guys, go here and like, for example, if you want to learn MoGraph, just just to read. It's pretty well done, and in Houdini, that's the same principle, and you can have also the dockable documentation inside Houdini just by clicking the toggle help here. So you can have you can do your stuff, and in your own layout you can have
Yeah.
your stuff. And most of the time we don't do magic, we just
Just read the documentation.
yeah, we
Yeah,
check the
on Cinema
documentation.
4D is really good. It's Cinema 4D. They spend a lot of time doing that. In Houdini, I found out it's hard to find stuff, but I prefer going to the browser documentation because you have links to other nodes and you have a lot of images to help you out. But yeah, first start thinking what you want to do, go look for the nodes inside the documentation, and after that, go to the Houdini.
Yeah, and one other advice that I could give to people in Cinema 4D or even Houdini is just to learn little parts from little parts. I saw too many people like trying to do destructions, fluids, the fire, and they try to melt too many things and they give up. To me, it's better to do little tasks, but do it every days or every week and
Yeah,
keep in the time, so it will get in your
yeah,
mind into the survival mode,
yeah.
I think.
I'm not like people, but I like to do almost everyday studies. So I start learning a lot of things. Before I start doing my growth plans, I start doing every days with Pyro simulations to understand each parameter. And even before that, I start with PopNet, like I'm doing on my tutorials, just to understand what I could do with curl noise, to adding some text to it. And then I even create, let me try and find, not this one, this one, yeah. This was one of my first projects in Houdini with PopNet. And I used the same principle I'm explaining on my tutorials. It was adding a curl noise and then adding a Z velocity and Y velocity.
Pretty good looking.
And this is just the same stuff I did on the previous tutorial.
Yeah.
I'm controlling the PopNet, adding trails, and then adding color to it.
Yeah, the thing is, when you like do one asset or one thing in Houdini, you can like do so much. So people, for example, if you do one asset, you can focus on it and do many things. For example, I've made all this stuff from the same thing. So I try to learn Houdini, and I'm a big noob. But the thing is, and this is another asset, and everything is like made from the same thing. So just learn little parts. Even if you know 5 nodes, but you know how to use it, you will be able to create a bunch of things. So
Yeah.
focus on little things.
And I use the same logic as you are saying for this on this tutorial. I was explaining this organic stuff, really simple math, and then I want just to show you with the same logic you could do plant stuff. Where is it? Here. And you can have a structure like this. It looks like complex, but it's really simple to do with the PopNet. And like Maxime is saying, start with simple nodes. Right now I'm using only 4 nodes, right? And I'm getting a complex structure, organic structure for my project. And I think that's it. That is the best advice on Houdini, for sure. Start simple with simple stuff and then start doing complex stuff after you polish everything else.
Yeah. So thank you guys for watching. Yeah, the stream will be available to watch over again and again. So thank you for everybody that
Thank you,
came
guys.
late. You will be able to see it again and again. Bye.
Bye and thank you.